The Trump administration accuses Attorney General Tish James of mortgage fraud. They allege in court documents that in 2023, James granted her power of attorney to make a Norfolk, Virginia property her principal residence, despite her actually living and serving as Attorney General in New York. They also allege she bought a 5-family property in Brooklyn in 2001 with a loan that is only available for homes with 4 units or less.
Let's talk about this mess, all right? Now, I'm pretty sure by now most of y'all have at least heard of Letitia James, because she's all over the news, and this whole situation is getting out of hand, at least for her, that is. Now, if you ain't been watching or keeping up, she's the New York Attorney General, you know, the one that's been going after Trump, like stand on his back like white on rice. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But now she's the one that's getting hit with fraud accusations. And some folks say it's legit, while others say it's political theater and political revenge and that type of stuff. So what's really going on? But I want you to hear what she has to say. I want you to watch it to the end. And at the end, I want you to hit that like and subscribe button and leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts, because I'm interested in knowing, because I'm definitely going to take a tally at the end to find out whether or not you think she's innocent or guilty. Let's get in.
Madam Attorney General, it's great to have you on.
It's great to be with you, Chris, and please call me Tish.
All right, I was going to ask you, what's the best way to address you?
Just say Tish.
Okay. Well, there's a lot to get to here, and I thought maybe we'd start with a little bit of the prehistory, because there is a history here.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to talk about, I wanted to start off presenting you with a kind of argument that Trump supporters and even people who are not diehard Trump people will make about the legal cases against Donald Trump in the last few years.
Yeah.
And basically they go the following way. You liberals talk about tyranny and authoritarianism and misusing the weapons of the state, but when Donald Trump was running for office and he was the major party candidate, various people associated with Democratic office holders, whether that was a special counsel appointed by the president or Attorney General Tish James or District Attorney of New York, Alvin Bragg, brought cases against him purely out of a partisan desire to kind of nab him. And how can you get all up in your dander about whatever they're doing right now? I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but yeah. I think it is actually worth wrestling with, because if you abstract it enough, there's a kernel of a point there. But I think if you zoom in, that point starts to look a little more dubious. But I'd love to hear you kind of respond to that.
Now, what you just heard was Chris Hayes from MSNBC, and he's trying to appear impartial, giving her the space to say whatever she wants. But here's the kicker. Is she reading off of a script? And if she thought it would shield her somehow, I think that plan just backfired on her. What do y'all think? You be the judge.
This a million times, but yeah. I think it is actually worth wrestling with.
Yep, she's showing enough reading.
Abstracted enough, there's a kernel of a point there. But I think if you zoom in, that point starts to look a little more dubious. But I'd love to hear you kind of respond to that.
So, Chris, I have been accused of weaponizing the justice system. And I have been accused of bringing a civil case against Donald Trump based on some personal and political animus. And nothing can be further from the truth.
And so we've got to stand up to the federal government. We've got to stand up to bullies. We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale.
Now, what the hell does she mean by that? She's standing right next to a Caucasian male. And is he pale? Is he stale? You know, it's quite amazing what a person would accept once they're hypnotized. Stockholm Syndrome is alive and well, y'all. Look it up. Stockholm Syndrome. Don't you hurt Massa. Don't hurt him. I mean, how can a person just fall for this reverse psychiatry?
Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
But actually, it was leaders like Malcolm X who actually warned us about this. They warned us about these so-called leaders of movements and the white liberal.
So y'all, from my perspective,
Chris, my 2-year investigation into the businesses of Donald Trump et al. Was as a result of a congressional hearing where some pointed questions were asked by members of Congress with respect to the overvaluation of his assets.
Allegations in that letter claim James listed the Virginia home as her main residence and that she misrepresented her Brooklyn property as having fewer units. All, he writes, in order to allegedly secure more favorable loan terms. It's also alleged James and her father signed mortgage documents in 1983 stating they were husband and wife. You may recall AG James filed a civil lawsuit against President Trump and the Trump Organization for inflating property values to get more favorable loan and insurance terms. She won, and they were fined hundreds of millions of dollars.
He said he was going to go after his enemies. He declared he would be going after his enemies. And he's finally gotten down to maybe the J's on his list, Tish James. He's going to keep going.
Now, some people want to point out, well, during the campaign, your campaign for the office of the Attorney General, you engaged in some political rhetoric. True. But at the end of the day, it's all about facts and evidence and an analysis of the law.
Here's the reality. The facts, the evidence, the law, they're stacked up against her. She signed legal documents that implicate her directly, and as Attorney General, she should have known better. And then to top that, she's going to bring a case against a former president, accusing him of inflating his property when the evidence is verifiably, undeniably stacked up against her, showing that she's the one who allegedly, most likely committed mortgage fraud. Drop me a comment, because I really need to know. And frankly, I think that this is going to have a boomerang effect on her. It's going to come right back on her, and deservedly so. And see, it was her approach, bundling together weak cases, hoping her political base remembers her when election time rolls around, I guess. And that's for that $450 million verdict. I wouldn't count on that going anywhere. And honestly, if I were her, I'd be praying it didn't, because if it sticks on him, bankruptcy might be right around the corner for her. Now, here's where things get messy. Letitia James went after Trump hard with that civil fraud case, and now she's sitting in the same hot seat, facing the same allegations. So naturally, her team is calling it a smear campaign, saying the goal is to discredit her. Politics is always about power moves. Is this payback, or is there a real fire behind the smoke? That's the question. If formal charges come through, expect a long, drawn-out legal battle that could stretch on for months. Either way, this story is far from over. It's just the beginning. So now I want you to ask yourself, is this a real scandal or just political chess? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll be keeping my ears to the ground, bringing you updates as things unfold. And make sure you check out my next episode. And thank you for hanging with Political Detox. Catch you in the next one.